off the playing field. It's about what you have on them in order to protect yourself.
I was first raped violently.
Well, you're finished. You'll never play football again.
Obviously, shoe contracts worth $400,000 or $500,000.
Morals and ethics don't exist above and beyond the society that they're a part of.
Nowadays, kids are faced with the choice of do you want a couple $1 million or your college degree?
Sport is a metaphor for what goes on in the real world.
Sport has a deep significance in the lives of many people and plays a significant role in modern society. While sport can be a diversion from grave realities of everyday life for some, for others, sport provides the space where their lives develop and dreams are realized. Sport is an economic, social, physiological, psychological, educational, entertainment powerhouse. Billions of dollars are invested and millions of people spend hours participating and being entertained by sports. Sports provides a storyline, a contest, and a drama for people of diverse racial, ethnic, and political backgrounds to share a common experience. In a world where politics and geography drives many of us apart, sports helps to bring us together. At the summit, the first international conference on ethics in sports, we discussed how sports can play an important part in one's life and how those who played sports can play an important part in our society. Let's revisit the summit and experience the viewpoints of some of the experts gathered there.
I'm going to have fun. Because when I played football, people say, well, you know what, when you played the game, you just played it, you jumping around and doing all, I was having fun. I enjoyed what I was doing. And you know, I felt embarrassed with all the attention and stuff that I was getting. Why? Because, you know, I didn't do it myself. The problem today is everybody thinks they're doing it themselves. Give me a break. You see me running, I may knock a guy down, but somebody had to give me that opportunity to get that head of steam up to get in there and put that elbow on him. They did. So everything that I accomplished, every yard that I had, every time that I faked him out, which I didn't do it often, I want to clarify that because I don't want him getting me out in the hall. But I didn't do it by myself. Every yard I had was aided by my teammates.
I think one of the things, you know, when I was growing up within the sport of speed skating, before the success, during the success, and, you know, now what is after the success, I wanted to be somebody who gave back to the sport. I didn't want to be someone who, you know, just kind of took and left. You know, I feel that I got so much out of the sport of speed skating. You know, yeah, I got 5 Olympic gold medals and a bronze, but I also learned so much along the way, and I feel that so many people were instrumental at being able to be there and be part of my success. That was something that I wanted to give back. And, you know, even though I've been out of the sport now for a little over 3 years, it's still a very big part of my life. I'm on the board of directors. My husband still skates, so I'm still very active there and going to the rink quite often. And, you know, it's something that I just felt was very important for someone who loves something so much to be able to give back and hopefully be able to share some of those things that I had growing up in the sport to pass on to others and then hopefully in the long run make it better.
Ultimately, though, I think that one thing you have to go back to in the basic makeup is your parents play a huge role. And you know, in my case, my parents played that role and gave me the basics and helped me through that growing process, if you will. So, you know, determination wasn't hard. Toughness, from a mental standpoint, forget physical toughness because I'm not a physically tough guy. Mental toughness is for me, easily learned from my father and from the fact that, you know, here's a guy that won 4 national championships at the University of Southern California, goes to the pro ranks and has to lose his first 26 games just because of a system they set up. Mental toughness was learned there pretty easily. So you get a lot from your parents and from your educational background. But to me, again, I just say that I looked at it as a situation where we needed to solve this situation. Not we meaning the Buccaneers, but meaning as a community, and that helped me.
Corporate America has gotten very intimately involved in compensating both coaches and the programs themselves. And that's just a reality. It's a fact of the free enterprise system. It's a good way to advertise, to draw attention to your business. You don't have to be a sneaker company to do that. I mean, there are a lot of companies. I mean, fast food companies and others are actually in the stadia now. And you see certain emblems when you drive up to certain stadiums that are very commercially oriented. And the alcohol companies have been brilliant for many years, if one means by brilliance, developing a lot of sales on the college campus with promotions for charities and what have you. So corporate America is into it big time, and that's not going to change. Is it all good? No. Is it all bad? No. Once again, it always comes back to perspective. What is the message to the young people that are affected by all this? If the message is, okay, you're getting good local corporate support, you got a new stadium, let's go study hard, play hard, fine. If, on the other hand, there's some control aspect and the company has a proprietary interest, it starts to become unholy and starts to name who the next administrator is going to be or the next coach. And I'm speaking of individual alumni as well. Now it's getting out of hand, and that has caused some real nightmares for college programs. So it goes back once again to perspective. Nowhere in the charters of our universities does it say anything about competing with the NFL or the NBA, but that's what we're doing. So we either need to go back to what we're really supposed to be as educational institutions and have a football department with a tenured professor that's called coach, who's judged by his one-loss record, but also by the graduation record and by the comportment, the behavior of the players and all those things, by the campus, not by the media and not by national television. And we play these games for the benefit of the students, not the wealthy alumni or the fans or the networks. I mean, it's just gotten totally out of perspective, and it's not going to change.
You're a president in public higher education because you enjoy it and you believe very strongly in what you're doing. So all of the challenge, I still love intercollegiate athletics. I still believe strongly in it. And so when I talk about the challenges, I don't want to put it in the context of this is a dastardly part that needs to be eliminated in our institutions. No, it's not. It's a very valuable part. It's a meaningful part. And as I say, so many of the things that have taken place because of outside forces. And then that internal hypocrisy where things maybe just slip a little bit. But I love what we do. I still believe that higher education, I believe that education, period, but higher education makes the difference in our society, is the force, the agent of change that can bring about some of these things. Sport goes on all over the world. And there are abuses or excesses of sport all over the world. So I don't look on us as saying that we have a disease that no one else has. But I do believe that if we talk about values, integrity, and ethics in sport as we do in all other parts of the institute, I mean, we've got to have a clean house everywhere. We can't just impose it on some and not on others. I guess I still believe we can do that. And I'm still willing to work towards it.
We live in our own worlds. We don't interact with people. We interact with the computer and the voicemail and the pager. And it's deep, man. You know? And here's sports. And if you're a baseball fan on a Sunday afternoon, you can go and pay your money and you can sit down and you can watch a 4-hour game. That is the most boring thing in the world. But if that's what you want to watch, for that 4 hours, life becomes simple. You got balls and strikes, you got some innings, you know, it's simple. It has nothing to do with, you know, www.com. You understand? It's simple. But you turn on that basketball game. I'm gonna do it tonight. The Lakers and Utah, you know. I'm gonna do it tonight, man. I mean, you turn on that basketball game and you watch Shaq, and he's a young cat and he's trying to come up. And you look at Karl Malone, and he's a veteran, he's been there, and he's been denied, and he's got that look on his face like, I want what's mine, you know? And that drama, here's a guy who Karl Malone may never put a ring on his finger, you know? Shaq may put 5 on his finger. maybe neither one of them will put a ring on their finger. Michael's got 5 on his. You know, but it's just that you look and you say, man, can somebody beat Michael? Can somebody unseat the king of the hill? You know, President Suharto in Indonesia was there for 32 years. He got unseated, but Michael Jordan still is wearing rings. You know, it's so dramatic. You know, it's so dramatic. So you say all this because we're sitting here and we're talking about sports and the significance of sports and what it means to American culture, and we are convening minds and journalists and athletes, and you know, I mean, it had to be pretty serious for the president to sit down on a panel on national TV and talk about it.
Be yourself. That's the only way. You know, you talk about role models, you talk about ethics in football. You know, the other day, the New York Yankees got into a fight. You see that? Why? Because the pitcher hit the guy, so they get mad, so the next guy will retaliate. Oh, yeah. Why? Respect. We got to get respect. Yeah, we don't let no guy do that to our guy. Give me a break. It's a baseball game. Plus, you're getting paid all that money, too. You know, what type of example are you setting for the kids? Because, believe me, they're watching. You don't think they are? They're watching. Believe me. Kids, they don't miss a thing. And that's scary. Because, you know, I don't look at myself as a role model. I look at myself as a person that is going through life the way Peter and Eileen Payton tried to raise me and just enjoy life.
I think that it's a really sad thing to see now that the whole element of sportsmanship and caring about how you win has been almost eliminated from American life. It's not being taught at the basic level where kids are entering into sports and learning about the sporting life. I think we have to make a greater effort to get to kids and teach them why it's right to win a certain way and why it's not right to win in other ways. If they don't know why, they will never ever understand it, and they will take that attitude into their adult lives, and we see the consequences of that. Sportsmanship is certainly a key. It is certainly an aspect of life in America that has made us stand apart as a nation. Just the whole idea of fair play and sportsmanship. And to see that dying in American life, it's real tragedy. We are losing part of our national character that really has served us well.
Sport has played a powerful role in the lives of many people by providing the context in which their dreams and aspirations have a chance to develop. Like music, art, dance, and acting, sport is an activity that some enjoy by observing, others by doing, and still others both observing and doing.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Bonnie Blair, Walter Payton, and Bill Curry each exemplify sports excellence and how their experience in sports drives them to excel in other aspects in their lives. Rich McKay, Bill Shelton, and Todd Boyd share how much their careers as managers, educators, or scholars are shaped by sports. When society devotes such talent and energy into a practice, and when that practice provides such meaning and purpose to lives, ethical issues arise.
The ethical issues which arise in sports confront virtually all aspects of society. From sports participants to uninterested taxpayer, the use of talent and resources on sports affects the available talent and resources for use in the rest of society. Let's consider a variety of perspectives on ethical issues associated with sports and society.
At this point, it raises some very interesting questions about human nature, about our capacity to influence and change the nature of our own behavior. And I think it now begins to lead us into some very profound issues of modern medical technology, the prospects of transforming ourselves in the light of our own self-images. This is true in a somewhat superficial way in the case of using performance-enhancing substances, whatever they may be. it will be profoundly true to the extent that we can, in the future, begin to control our own genetic inheritance. So it now will force people to look at what we are as humans and to ask some questions about what we could be. And this raises very deep and important, deep fears and very important questions, which I think philosophers are only beginning to explore. So that's where that's where it leads us, and I think that's why, in a curious sort of way, the superficiality of the debate on drugs, if pushed and if allowed to open up and to flourish as a really interesting sort of philosophical debate, leads us into some questions which are far more profound and far more interesting than whether or not Ben Johnson used steroids.
It's interesting when you think about the issue of amateurism versus professionalism. And, the word for amateur goes back to the root word in Latin for love. And what characterizes an amateur is one who loves it. And hopefully, in some extended sense, we're all amateurs, but we do it out of our love. But what sets professionals apart are really two things, and they're two very distinct things. One is that their whole life is devoted to it. The other thing is that they get paid for it. And those two things are very different kinds of things. And the fact that they devote their whole lives to it doesn't interfere with the love for it, particularly. The fact that they get paid for it may or may not.
One of the things that can save life is joy, and you don't need a lot of it. It doesn't have to compare quantitatively with the amount of pain you suffer. A little joy can keep you going a long way. One win, for example, can give you a high that will carry you through all sorts of things. And even if you don't win, just the knowledge that you played well and the exhilaration that comes from exerting yourself and you're developing yourself, there's usually a lot of pain that comes with that too. But the pain is not something that depresses you when you're aware of the development that it's contributing to. So I think that joy is one of the things that does make life worth living. Sports is not one of the frivolous things in that way. I think sports, like music and the arts, is really central to what makes life worth living.
My beef has always been that sports are such a conspicuous public feature of our lives on the one hand, but very seldom talked about in a serious way. I teach at a university which is absolutely sports crazy, and I've often joked with people that if the entire university buildings burned down, as long as the facades were standing and people could get to the stadium, they wouldn't notice. By the same token, I think university professors who are quite concerned with and perhaps even jealous with the attention given to sports don't take them seriously. And so my view is that sports are so public, and so much of what they involves the display of moral images of who we are, that what better way to try to change something, as it were, and to try to get some dialogue going in which we inject moral values and moral analysis than sports. They are absolutely ripe for these kinds of analysis, and I can't think of a better way to do them, as a matter of fact.
Clearly, either doing a much better job marrying athletics and academics, or it seems to me that we're going to have to make a decision as to whether we need to separate the two completely. I don't think you can have. I was about to say I don't think we can continue on the path we're on. We've been on this path now for at least 50 to 60 years, and the roof hasn't come crashing in yet. On the other hand, it's not real solid either. We need to do something about the integrity of our academic institutions as it relates to sports, because I think the situation we have today damages the academic integrity. That's a major concern. I think there is a major concern with respect to gender in athletics, in sports. and the rights of women to participate. Things are a lot better today than they were 20 years ago. There's a lot to be done. I think there's a need to begin to deal with some of the misbehavior of our athletes. I don't know how you deal with that misbehavior in athletes if you don't begin to deal with it in society at large. And finally, when it comes to race, there's just too much to be done.
Well, we opened the center in 1984 with the thought of trying to reach young children with messages about balancing academics and athletics. It was at a time that graduation rates were extremely low in colleges and universities, even lower for black student athletes, and that high school students were leaving high school student athletes were leaving high school with illiteracy rates ranging between 25 and 30%. And a lot of it was being attributed to the fact that kids thought they could play pro sports in spite of the odds. So we were trying to get a group of athletes together and prepare them to work with young people about understanding that you can have the dream but be prepared for something else in case you don't make it. We created a consortium of universities so that children could be served in different communities around the country, and athletes could go back in cities around the country to finish their own educations to raise those graduation rates. Since we started in 1984, we've had more than 143 universities are now members of the consortium, including the University of South Florida. The entire Florida system is one of two systems in the country that has joined as a system. We've had more than 13,000 athletes return to complete their degrees in the process. They have worked with over 5 million young people in the community service and outreach program, not going in and seeing them on a poster or a billboard or in a video, but actually in direct contact and repeat contact in many of the cases, because we believe the messages need to be reinforced. They have donated more than 4.7 million hours of community service. The universities have put up $85 million in tuition assistance. Our violence prevention program was evaluated by Lou Harris, the public opinion analyst, in 1993, and he called it America's most successful violence prevention program. Won the Peter F. Drucker Award, the management guru, as the nation's most innovative program leading to social change, named by the Clinton administration as one of its models for conflict resolution. We have a huge program trying to address issues of male violence against women, which has become so effective that it was adopted by the United States Marine Corps last year, and our athletes trained all the non-commissioned officers on 7 of the 12 worldwide facilities of the U.S. Marine Corps. Our diversity training program has become successful enough that we just finished doing every employee of the National Basketball Association in groups of 30 or less, 8 hours a day, from mailroom clerks to David Stern. And we think that we are only limited by resources, that we could pick any issue that's important for children and use the athletes in sport as a vehicle to reach them.
Well, I'm excited by the conference and by the work at the university here in South Florida. I think the attention it's giving to sport, to movement, is exciting. Culturally, we've always known the sport and movement have been there, and people read the sport page first, dominates television in many ways too. To take it seriously as educators and to find out how we can improve human living through sport, through ethics and sport and so forth, to me is a very promising move. We need to take sport seriously, and I think it's a great vehicle for social change, and I think it's a wonderful end in itself.
The multiplicity of ethical issues in and surrounding sports provides a concise, related sample of the issues confronting society at large. Each sports ethics issue is an example of a larger societal issue, which extends into areas thought to be unrelated or unconnected to sports.
As Professor Brown points out, thinking deeply about performance-enhancing drugs can lead us into questions about the nature of humanity and the choices we have in determining who we are as individuals and what we wish to be as a society. Doctors Hinman, Card, and Morgan point out how sports studies can address our most intimate private joys as well as our most public social interactions. Justice Page and Dr. Lapchick show us how sports can play a role in changing lives and correcting injustices in society. Professor Kretschmar reminds us that no matter how useful sports may be to ourselves and our society, that sports, most of all, is a wonderful end in itself.
Sports epitomizes the modern belief in constant improvement and progress. Sports shows us inspiring performances which combine both exemplary physical and spiritual ability. By gaining a perspective on interesting and complex ethical issues in sports, we can gain a perspective on ethical issues that permeate modern society. The billions of dollars and millions of people connected to sports confirm the importance that sport has in the lives of people throughout the world. If we fail to understand the importance of sports in society, then we will fail to comprehend one of the most distinguishing characteristics of our humanity.